Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Surprise Jab Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Ruger, surprising you with new topics every single week and jabbing you with your daily dose of UFC. And we are back again with another UFC event. I mean, it's almost every week. I think we go until UFC 300, and then we take like a week off. Then we go like another 8 straight Saturdays with UFC events, but this one, UFC Vegas 88, going down at the UFC Apex. Very chill event, very underwhelming, I won't lie. But as a hardcore fan, as someone who watches every single event, there are a numerous fighters on this card, so I will be watching nonetheless, and that's going to be what we'll be covering on today's episode as our main event. Also on today's episode, of course, some new UFC news. We're going to be checking in with the NBA, NHL, NFL, all sorts of different types of things going on in all those leagues. Going to be doing that. We are back with the 48 Laws of Power. I got 2 new laws to talk about with you guys today, which is going to be fun. Going to be going over The Bachelor. Of course, most recent Bachelor episode went down. Got to talk about that. We're also going to be revisiting UFC 200 as our surprise thing for the day. We are a month away from UFC 300, so I figured why not go and revisit UFC 200. We revisited UFC 100, so might as well see what went down at the second biggest UFC event of all time. Technically, not actually the second biggest, but the milestone, if you will, that UFC 200 was. So strap in, let's go over all the information that we are going to cover today. And as I just said that, I realize that's probably how I should have started the intro, but nonetheless, you know how we kick off every single episode with some new UFC news, and there hasn't been too much. Not too much, and outside of actual, the UFC, we have 2 former UFC fighters who actually fought in the main event of UFC 244 back in November 2019, rematching Saturday, June 1st. That's right, Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal will be participating in a professional boxing bout. That's right, Saturday, June 1st, a 10-round boxing bout, might I add. Jorge Masvidal last won a fight in, Jorge Masvidal's last win was over Nate Diaz in 2019. Since then, he was yet to win a fight and actually retired from MMA in 2023 when he lost to Gilbert Burns. As for Nate Diaz, he went out with a win over Tony Ferguson in September of 2023? Was that 2023? UFC 279, not 2022. I think it was, honestly. It was 2022 now that I remember thinking about it. So it's been a while since we saw Nate Diaz last get a win, but you know what? Happy to see those two going at it. They're definitely just doing it for the money. But to our UFC realm, we've had 3 new fights officially announced since we last spoke, one of which going down at UFC Vegas 90 on April 6th. It'll be a prelim bout between Cesar Almeida, who is 4-0. He'll be making his UFC debut fresh off of Dana White's Contender Series as he takes on Dylan the Mindless Hulk Budka. Dylan Budka, he's stepping in on short notice to replace Josh Fremd in this bout. He is 7-2 professionally, of course, and he'll also be making his UFC debut coming off of a win on Dana White's Contender Series. So it'll be exciting to see both of those guys, see who does the best in their UFC debut. I'm leaning with Cesar Almeida, 4-0, excellent in Taekwondo and Jiu-Jitsu, but who knows? That'll just be a random prelim fight. Going down at UFC 302 on June 1st in, I believe, is speculated to be New Jersey, we have Grant KJD Dawson, who is 22-1 professionally, 8-1 in the UFC, wins over Demirez Magulov, Jared Gordon, Mark Madsen. Of course, he was recently KO'd in October against Bobby Green, shockingly. But so since then, of course, he has fallen out of the rankings, but he'll be getting another chance to pick up a win as he takes on Joe Selecki. Joe Selecki is 13-4 professionally, 5-2 in the UFC. Actually holds wins over Jim Miller and Austin Hubbard. Very fascinating there. I'm definitely leaning Grant Dawson in that bout. He's an amazing wrestler from what I've seen, but his chin clearly isn't that all good, as Bobby Green literally touched him once and he got knocked out. It's pretty comical. Last fight that was officially announced going down UFC Vegas 91 on April 27th. JSP Jonathan Pierce will take on David Onama. Jonathan Pierce is 5-2 in the UFC, holds wins over Mako Amirkhani, Darren Elkins, among some notable people. Excited to see him getting a chance to, get a win, but Won't be easy as he takes on David Onama, 11-2 professionally, 3-2 in the UFC. He's had a fight of the night, 2 performance of the night knockouts. I mean, this guy is a killer. Wins over Gabriel Santos, Gabriel Benitez, Garrett Armfield. David Onama, I feel, could be a real threat if he works on his cardio and grappling when it comes to rising up in the UFC rankings. He's a fun fighter. Excited to see that fight going down in the future. Also, in some unfortunate news, Marvin Vettori, who was supposed to take on Brendan Allen in the main event of UFC, what will it be? UFC 90, I think it is. UFC Vegas 90, I think it is. Whatever it is, the event going on April 6th. He's ranked number 5, is supposed to take on number 7 ranked Brendan Allen. Unfortunately, he is pulled out, so they will have to search for a replacement. They'll have to find a replacement for that fight. I don't really know who's available that Brendan Allen could potentially do battle with. Brendan Allen's actually ranked number 6. Wow, he's worked his way all the way up there. Potentially Jack Hermansson's available. Nasruddin Imavov was available. Anthony Hernandez, maybe. You got Chris Curtis. A lot of different options. It's unlimited at middleweight, so I'll be interested to see what the UFC elects to go with. But sad to not see that fight be taking place. Hopefully in the future we can get that fight going on. But yeah, other than that, nothing. Nothing to really tell you guys about. The UFC's been kind of stale the last few days. All the big fights have pretty much been announced. If anything, we're waiting to see what the main events for UFC 301 and 302 are as we wait for the epic UFC 300, which I think I'm actually going to be placing official bets for. I think I'm going down to Iowa. A couple of my buddies going to get some lunch in some small Iowa town and place some bets on ESPN. So stay tuned for that because that'd be super exciting. As I am officially, wherever I marked it down, 64-30 on the year, which is absolutely incredible. We are predicting fights at 64 divided by 94, I think if I do my math correctly, 68%. So we're predicting 68% of our fights correct. I want to get that up into the 70s, but nonetheless pretty impressive. Before we stop and move on to our next category, I figure we should check out the UFC rankings following UFC 299 as we've had a plethora of changes. Biggest one, going to the men's pound for pound as Sean O'Malley has moved from 8th to 6th. Sean O'Malley is now the number 6 pound for pound fighter in the world, which is absolutely incredible. He passes Charles Oliveira and Alexander Volkanovski as he should. Great stuff for Sean. And just look at the top 6. I mean, Sean's at 6, Ilia Topuria is at 5, Alex Pereira at 4, Leon Edwards 3, John Jones at 2, and your number 1 pound for pound fighter, Islam Makhachev. Super, super cool to see all that. I'll be fascinated to see what Sean O'Malley elects to do next. Quickly checking in with the flyweight division as Sumadarji passes David York just randomly. Good for him. Sumadarji's now ranked 14th. David York ranked 15th. No idea what's next for either of those men. They'll probably be fighting some unranked contenders if I'm guessing correctly. But looking at bantamweight, Kyler Phillips, following his win over Pedro Munoz, has moved up to the number 12 spot from previously being unranked. Dominic Cruz gets bumped up to 11. Mario Batista bumped up to 13 as Jonathan Martinez drops 3 spots to 14 and Pedro Munoz drops 2 spots to 15. Excited to see what's next for Kyler. It's really tough to say. I doubt he's going to get a top 10 guy. You're probably looking at a Dominic Cruz or Jonathan Martinez next for him, but exciting stuff for the kid. Any other changes in bantamweight? No, none whatsoever. Marlon Vera remains at 5. They're not really going to put him down anymore as the 2 guys below him are coming off of losses, so we'll just leave him at that. Moving to lightweight, Mateusz Gamrot, following his win, moves from 6 to 5. Mateusz Gamrot officially in the top 5, and I think his next opponent should be in the top 5. I don't know who, as I really doubt they're going to give Dustin Poirier and Mateusz Gamrot a fight, which makes a lot more sense ranking-wise if Dustin Poirier actually wants a title shot. I think he holds no validity to get a title shot just from a cool knockout. I mean, I know how the UFC works, but if he could beat Mateusz Gamrot, I think that could really, really show that he is elite in that level. Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan, maybe the loser of that fights Mateusz Gamrot. Maybe the winner fights Mateusz Gamrot. I don't know. A lot of options, but happy to see him there. Dan Hooker passes Jalen Turner from 10 to 9, and Benoit Saint-Denis, despite losing, passes Rafael Dos Anjos from 12 to 11. A lot of stuff going on with all these guys. Jalen Turner's got a fight with Renato Moicano, who's ranked number 13th. Rafael Dos Anjos, honestly, could retire, and I wouldn't even care. Benoit Saint Denis, Benoit Saint Denis and Dan Hooker. That would be a fun fight. I want to see that fight next. So that's what I think. And Michael Chandler ranked number 6, despite his last win coming in May of 2022 against Tony Ferguson. Yeah, we need to get Michael Chandler a fight soon. He should stop waiting for Conor McGregor and just take whatever fight the UFC offers him. Welterweight is where we go next, as we have had a lot of changes. First off, Kevin Holland down to 14, Michael Chiesa down to 15, Renat Fakhretdinov kicked out of the rankings as Michael Venom Page debuts at number 13 in the rankings following his win over Kevin Holland, respectively. Fun fight that was, kind of a weird one. Michael Page has a very interesting fighting style, with his stance and the punches he throws, but happy to see him in the rankings, and I don't really know what's next for him. Probably a fight with someone in the 8 to 12 range of the rankings, but happy to see him in the rankings nonetheless. Vicente Luque is down to 11, Jeff Neal down to 10, Wonderboy Thompson down to 9, Sean Brady down to 8, Ian Gary down to 7, Gilbert Burns drops 2 spots as Jack Della Maddalena jumps 6 spots in the ranking, going from, where was he? Was he ranked 11? Going from 11 to 5. Nonetheless, Jack Della Maddalena is now the number 5 welterweight in the world. Crazy to see, and somehow, despite not having a win since March of 2022, Colby Covington is ranked number 4. I have no idea. Now, mind you, the only guys to beat Colby Covington are Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman, your champion and the number 1 ranked guy. So, I guess it's not necessarily like they can drop him down, but I'm seeing some stirring on the internet. Colby Covington going after Ian Gary. You could potentially see that fight between number 7 ranked Ian Machado Gary and number 4 ranked Colby Covington in the future. But as for the now number ranked 5, Jack Della Maddalena, I would love to see him fight Shavkat Rakhmonov or Bilal Muhammad. Those just seem like the fights to make. Depending on what Kamaru Usman elects to do, go to middleweight, stay at welterweight, a fight with Jack Della Maddalena could also be very, very fun. Moving on to middleweight, Anthony Hernandez passes Paul Craig from 13 to 12. Not really much to talk about there. Looking at the heavyweight division, Derek Lewis drops down 1 spot to 12. He was previously tied at 11 with Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Macy Barber now debuts at number 15 on the women's pound for pound as she moves from 6 to 4 in the women's flyweight division. That's right, Macy Barber, now the number 4 ranked woman in the women's flyweight division. Very nice to see. And that's all the rankings that we got. Of course, there's going to be some more fights this weekend that we'll have to take note of, but as for now, that's all the new UFC updates that I think we all need to be informed on. I don't think we need to be informed of anything else. Moving on from the UFC to the NBA. That's right, we're finally, it's been a week. It's been a week since we last checked in with the NBA and NHL. Let's see what's going on as the Boston Celtics are officially the best team in the league by a wide margin. The only team in the 50 club as they are 51-14. Still an impressive 29-3 at home, 8-2 their last 10. They currently ride a 3-fight win streak. Actually, yeah, it is a win streak or winning streak. It's just weird to say in the UFC they're on a win streak and then the NBA they're on a win streak when you hold wins. I don't know. I just thought it was weird saying that. But yeah, Boston doing very well this year, looking very impressive. I'm curious to see how they do in the playoffs. That's all I'm curious to see about. Tied for the number 2 and 3 spot, but the Cavs are officially at 2 and the Bucks are officially at 3, as the Cavs and Bucks are both 42-24. Going to be interesting to see what happens as they go down the stretch in the final. What are we looking at? 65? We're in the final 17 games of the season, I believe. Yeah, it's coming down to the wire. It's April. April will be here before we know it. Soon we'll be in the playoffs. This is pretty crazy to see. Knicks are currently in 4th, coming off a win the other night, 38-27. Magic in 5th, coming off a win, 38-28. 76ers, Pacers, Heat, all kind of in the mix at 6, 7, and 8. Heat are actually at 8, 35-30 on a 4-game losing streak. Ugh. Jimmy, get your team in line. Bulls are at 9, Hawks are at 10, Nets are at 11, Raptors at 12 on a 5-game losing streak. They're currently ranked number 12. Wow, 23-43 record. 3-7 their last 10. Not too shabby at all. And not in a good way. Not too shabby in a bad way. Sometimes there's not too shabby good way. This one, maybe they are shabby. That's what I should say. And the Raptors are shabby. Yikes. Hornets are in 13th, 17-49. I don't even know if they're going to get to a 20-win mark on the season. Pistons, somehow not even the worst team in the league anymore. 12 wins, 53 losses. They're on a 2-game win streak, as the Wizards are 11-54, 2-8 their last 10. Yeah, it's bad at the bottom. Hornets, Pistons, Wizards, very bad. Wizards, bad of the bad. It is, wow, rough to be a Washington Wizards fan, I'll say that. Moving on to the Western Conference, Timberwolves without Karl-Anthony Towns have been having some rough patches. 6-4 the last 10. They did get a win the other night, which was very nice to see, but they are ranked 3 as the Nuggets are the best team in the West currently. 46-20 record on a 4-game win streak, 9-1 their last 10, 27-6 at home. Gosh, they've been playing some good ball. Thunder just ahead of the Timberwolves as well by 0.5 games, 45-20 record, 7-3 their last 10. You know what? It's going to be a battle, but I'm happy with the Timberwolves being at 3, in that 3 to 4 range, because we don't want someone like the Lakers, Maverick, or Suns. I want to face someone like the Pelicans or Kings in the playoffs. That's who I want to deal with. Maybe not so much the Kings, but the Pelicans would be very good. So if the Timberwolves fell to the number 4 seed, that would not bother me at all. Currently in 4th is the Los Angeles Clippers, who are 41-23. They are on a 2-game losing streak, though, and I just realized how stacked they are. Their potential starting lineup is Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Ivica Zubac. I mean, that is an insane lineup. That's a NBA 2K18, my team type lineup. It is super goofy, but you know what? Good for them. Pelicans, I mentioned, are in 5th, 39-26. They are 6-4 their last 10. Kings in 6th, Suns in 7th, Mavericks in 8th, Lakers in 9. 36-31. But might I add about the Mavericks being the 8th seed? They are on a 4-game win streak, so they've kind of turned their luck around. Warriors currently on the bubble of the play-in teams with a 34-31 record. They're in the 10th spot. Rockets in 11th. They're actually on a 3-game win streak, 30-35. Don't count them out of the playoffs. Jazz continue to fall down despite how good Walker Kessler's playing, 28-37. They are 9-24 on the road, though, which is not good. 2-8 their last 10. They ride a 3-game losing streak. Grizzlies in 13th, Trailblazers in 14th, and the worst team, the Spurs, in 15th, 14-52. Yeah, it just hasn't been pretty for the Spurs at all. 2-game losing streak, 3-7 their last 10. They have 7 games won at home and on the road. It has been few and far for both those teams. Checking back in with our stat leaders after a week. Luka Doncic, still the leader in points per game with 34.3 points per game. He's playing insane, trying to keep the Mavericks in the playoff race. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leading one of the top teams in the West of the Thunder, 31.1 points averaging per game. And Giannis, the only other player, averaging 30 points, averaging 30.8. He's currently the 3rd best. Rebounds per game, let me just tell you, this is why I don't want to play the Kings in the playoffs if I'm a Timberwolves fan. Being a Timberwolves fan, I'll say, is that Domantas Sabonis is averaging 13.6 rebounds per game and has gotten, I'm pretty sure, a double-double in like 40 consecutive games. It's been insane. He got triple-double the other night. He's been playing amazing, and De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk occasionally pop off for 40 points. It's crazy. Rudy Gobert is, of course, the number 2 rebounds points per game person with 12.9, and Davis, Anthony, that is, of the Lakers, 12.4. Assists per game, Tyrese Haliburton's averaging 11.4, Trae Young averaging 10.8, Luka averaging 9.8, pretty good. Field goal percentage, there's only one player averaging 71% field goal percentage, and I mean in the 70s, and that is Daniel Gafford of the Mavericks. By the way, the top 5 players are all centers, as they usually just do little push-ins. 3-pointers made on the year, Stephen Curry still getting it done. He's made 290. The other 3 players in the 200 club are Luka Doncic with 227, Dante DiVincenzo of the Knicks with 207, a Villanova legend, and Klay Thompson, 205 of the Warriors as well. Bogdan Bogdanovic and Jason Tatum are actually tied for 5th with 194. 3-point percentage, though, goes to the former Duke Blue Devil Grayson Allen, who's currently on the Phoenix Suns, averaging 47.4. 3-point percentage per game. Luke Kennard of the Grizzlies, 45.5 3-point percentage. And Jalen Williams of the Thunder, 44.7. Blocks per game, it's not even close. Victor Wembanyama, the Rookie of the Year, number 1 pick of the Spurs, 3.4. 3.4, no one else coming close to him. Steals per game, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 2.1, averaging 2.1. Very cool to see. Good for him. And in recent news, as of the last few days, here have been some of the bigger stories. Ben Simmons undergoes successful back surgery for the second time since joining the Nets in 2022. Hopefully the Nets will see him back on the court, but so far he hasn't really been that impactful player everyone wants him to be. As well, DeMar DeRozan dropped 46 points, passing 3 Hall of Famers on the NBA's all-time scoring list in a single game. Wow, who were those players, actually? Can CBS Sports, can you tell me that? He passed Elgin Baylor, Dwayne Wade, and Adrian Dantley. Wow, impressive stuff, DeMar DeRozan. Happy to see it from you, kid. Happy to see it from you. But yeah, that's all we got for the NBA. As the season wages on, I'll be interested to see where everyone lands as the playoff push continues. It's looking like it's the Nuggets, Thunder, Timberwolves, and Clippers battling out in the West, and it's just whoever places 2 through 10 in the East, as the Celtics are just not even a unit this season. They're just playing better ball than couple of other teams, but yeah, that's all we got for the NBA. But let's move on to a distant cousin of the NBA, that is the NHL, as we see what teams are currently at the top, which teams are currently at the bottom. Checking in with the Eastern Conference first, the best team in the league still, the 45-17-4 Florida Panthers with 94 points on the year, 8-2 their last 10. They got a plus 65 point differential, currently riding a 2-game win streak. It's been good. It's been good puck. Been good puck down in Florida, which is so weird that one of the warmest states, if not the warmest in the United States, is playing better hockey than a lot of the northern teams. That's just embarrassing to see. And then checking out the Atlantic Division, we'll just go by division this episode. The Bruins, they got 91 points. I believe that makes them third best in the Eastern Conference. They got plus 39 point differential. They are 4-2-4 though, their last 10, so certainly not as good, but with a 38-14-15 record, they're in the 90-point club. Bottom of the pack of the Atlantic Division, and actually bottom of they're actually second worst. Second worst in the Eastern Conference, the Ottawa Senators, 26-33-4 record. They only have 56 points. But the worst point differential in the Atlantic Division and the Eastern Conference is the Montreal Canadiens, 25-30-10 record, 60 points. They have a minus 46 point differential. Oh, just gross. My goodness, what's going on? Maple Leafs, they got 82 points. They've been playing pretty good, not too bad. So, they're not playing too bad, but actually I'm going to go to the NHL website because I want to see who's currently in the wild card. That's actually what I wanted to look at as we look at some of the top teams per division. So yeah, Atlantic, it's Panthers, Bruins, Leafs currently in the Metropolitan Division for the Eastern Conference. Rangers have 90 points. They're 7-2-1 their last 10. Very impressive stuff. 43-18-4 record. Hurricanes are also in. Flyers are also in. As we look at the wild card, it's actually the Tampa Bay Lightning and New York Islanders who hold their spots with 74-72. Red Wings, despite being on a 6-game losing streak and are still tied with the Islanders, they could potentially get in. Insane. I don't know how the Red Wings are doing so bad. It's actually very fascinating. The Red Wings actually have the same symbol as the shoe company down in Red Wing, Minnesota, a boot company or something. I noticed that as I was down there the other week. Worst team, though, in the Eastern Conference is the Columbus Blue Jackets, 22-33-10 record, minus 43 point differential, only 54 points, 4-6 their last 10. No one's really on a big win streak in the Eastern Conference. Rangers with 3 wins have the most, but you know what? Panthers, Bruins, and Rangers, you guys are currently the best in the 90-point club. I don't see any wildcard team potentially winning. Maybe the Tampa Bay Lightning, but they could still potentially sneak in to their division. Let's move on to the Western Conference as we check in with the best team in the Pacific Division and the entire Western Conference. That is the 92-point, 42-17-8 Vancouver Canucks. Good stuff with these Canadian teams. They have a plus 55 point differential. Crazy. 5-3-2 their last 10 games. Good stuff with the Canucks, as they will definitely be clinching a playoff spot sooner or later. Tied for the number 2 team and currently the number 1 and number 2 in the Western Conference. The Central Division. Colorado Avalanche, 42-20-5, have 89 points, as well as the 40-18-9 Dallas Stars. Both have plus 40 point differential. 49 for the Avalanche, 42 for the Stars. Don't sleep on the Winnipeg Jets, though, with 87 points and a plus 41 point differential. They're also in the 40 win club and are in the playoffs as we speak. Pacific Division rounding out our current playoffs. Edmonton Oilers have 83 points, 2-game win streak for them. And the Kings, 77 points, 33-21-11 record. They also are in the playoffs as we speak. Biggest win streak goes to the Colorado Avalanche, so it helps being the best team in the Central Division and being on a 5-game win streak. Good for them. Wildcard teams, Nashville Predators have 80 points. They are hot on the hunt as I believe they're in the Central Division, if I'm not mistaken. So still 7 points behind, 38-25-4 record for them. 8-0-2 their last 10. Haven't had a regular period loss since last 10 days or something. Vegas Golden Knights, 77 points, are the number 2 team currently in the playoffs. So that's for the wild card I'm speaking. 2-game win streak for them. They are 3-6-1 their last 10 though. St. Louis Blues have 71 points. So do the Minnesota Wild. But I do not see the Minnesota Wild making the playoffs. It's too impossible. It's got to be impossible, isn't it? I mean, unless we were to somehow catch up to the Golden Knights, maybe. But we're still 6 points behind the Golden Knights and an insane 16 points behind the Winnipeg Jets. What in the world? But let's check in with the worst teams in the league. That is the 39-point, 16-win, 41 losses, 7 of those, or 7 in overtime respectively. 1-7-2 the last 10, the San Jose Sharks. It's been embarrassing. It's been embarrassing out in San Jose, but don't act surprised. Do not act surprised. I mean, it's California. Why are you playing good hockey out in California? I'm obviously being sarcastic, as the Vegas Golden Knights are from Las Vegas, and they play great puck. But, very embarrassing. Don't even know if they're going to get to 20 wins on the season. And as the season winds down, you're in the final under 20 games, home run stretch in sight. Number 9 team, and I believe the second worst team in the league, the Chicago Blackhawks, 18-43-5, Connor Bedard just needs some help. He just needs some help. A minus 90 point differential doesn't help, though. That is a real doozy for this Blackhawks team. Ducks in 8th, Coyotes 7th. That's for the wild card hunt, that is. Flames in 6th, Kraken in 5th. Yeah, it's starting to get a little separated in the Western Conference, but who knows? Blues and Wild have the best chance to make the playoffs. I think, honestly, it's a lot of people such as the Avalanche Stars. I'll even throw the Winnipeg Jets in there that are chasing the Canucks to potentially become the best team in the West. But the Canucks have just been so dang good. It's tough to see them getting past. Let's check out some of the top statistics on the regular season. Points, Nathan MacKinnon currently has the most with 115. Best GAA, was that goalie average or something? 2.3 for Sergei Bobrovsky, goalie for the Florida Panthers. Impressive stuff there. Most goals actually goes to Austin Matthews, 54 goals for him. Most assists goes to Connor McDavid with 81. Most shutouts on the season, though, tied for first between Tristan Jarry of the Penguins goalie and Connor Ingram of the Arizona Coyotes. Ooh. Rookies points, Connor Bedard has 51. Rookie goals, Connor Bedard 20. Rookie assists, Brock Faber 32. But guess what? Connor Bedard in second with 31. Gosh, this kid's good. My goodness. How about Brock Faber? How about him? Brock and Marco Rossi. How about that? All Minnesota Wild rookies staying close in the hunt. That was for actually skaters. Now as I actually go down to defensemen, I kind of am starting to see how the NHL divvies up their stats a bit different from the NBA, I guess, kind of. But defenseman Quinn Hughes of the Vancouver Canucks has the most points, 76. Most goals goes to Cale Makar of the Avalanche. Most assists also goes to Quinn Hughes with 36. I think that's all I got. Does it tell me what GAA is? It's not. It's not. It should tell me. I don't know why. NHL, update your website or something. But most recent news, let's do a little, see if it gives me any quick things to mention. Huffin, defenseman for the Golden Knights, has returned to Calgary with Vegas unique feeling. I don't know what it is freaking about. But yeah, the NHL season plays on just like the NBA. It is coming down to the wire. I'll be excited to see if the Wild can do anything. But it's looking like we should just try and get another good draft pick for the next year. I'll be interested to go back and revisit my NHL episode with Cole and Jaden and see if any of their takes were pretty accurate for the NHL season. But as we've gone from the NBA to the NHL, we now go to reality TV as we check in with the lovely, the amazing, the cringy, that make me slap my freaking hand on my face, The Bachelor. The Bachelor, which has just been one of the weirdest seasons, if you're asking me, for The Bachelor. I don't really watch all of them, so I don't know if that's really true. But the latest episode with 3 women left, as we had Daisy Kent, Kelsey Anderson, and Rachel Nance all in the hunt. Let's kind of recap the episode, and I'll give my thoughts. Of course, Joey, the biggest F-boy, the frat president, the king, the bachelor, as he is, the name of the show, first started out his date with Rachel Nance as they went jumping into a remote pond in the jungle, and Rachel freaking broke her jaw or something. I have no idea what to make of it. She jumped into the water, just came up, it was like holding her jaw. She sounded all funny, and I could just tell Joey got the ick. Joey wants his women perfect. Joey's a typical 1950s house man. You cook me dinner. You look pretty for me. He doesn't actually care. I mean, he says the same damn thing every single time these women open up, like, my goodness, I lost my mother when I was 15. I've never been the same since. And he just like puts a hand on their leg and just goes, thank you so much for being open. This really brings me closer to you. And then he just starts making out with him. That's all he does. But he couldn't make out with Rachel because she broke her jaw. So, you know what? Their date was kind of ruined. They went back and they actually did spend the night together. I doubt they did anything, though, as Joey kind of sent her on his way. And, like, there's this one moment she just randomly started crying. I could tell Joey just felt awkward, like he didn't know what to do. So Rachel is definitely going bye-bye. Definitely going bye-bye. I don't see her sticking around. He definitely feels more connected with Kelsey and Daisy, if you're asking me. But maybe Joey will keep Rachel because he likes going to Hawaii. That's the type of man I strike Joey to be. Up next was Kelsey, and him and Kelsey, they had a fun time. They went swimming in some reefs. They saw some stingrays, some fish. They were making out in the water, which could not have been good. I mean, personally, when I'm with my girlfriend, we're at a romantic getaway, and we're swimming with fishes in the ocean. I don't want to be focused on making out with her. No, I want to be watching out for sharks and alligators, Joey's an absolute madman, always has to have his woman's lips on him like a little pervert. But, yeah, Kelsey basically said that she was like in love with him, and then Joey was like, I think I'm in love with you, and it was like, oh, so romantic, and everything was perfect. And after their date ended and she spent the night, I'm thinking they might have freaked it, if you get what I'm saying. But I just got the vibe that like she was so insecure about him dating the other 2 women that she was like freaking out. They kept showing her like pacing around the room, looking out on the balcony into the distance, so sad. And we'll get to the ending of the episode after I talk about Daisy, but Kelsey is definitely becoming the star of the show, if you ask me. Following him and Kelsey's time, he went and hung out with Daisy, and honestly, I was kind of over just seeing all the dates. I was kind of skimming through. I don't even know what they did, but all I know is there was a scene at the end where they were in the shower, it's being filmed and they're just making out under the water, which, I mean, come on, it can't be fun making out under the water in front of millions of people, it has to be like dry and like the water's getting all in the way. But no, every time I skimmed ahead on their date, they were kissing. So I feel like him and Daisy are, they're probably the second best couple. But actually, who knows? Him and Daisy and Kelsey are probably tied for first. It's Rachel who's clearly getting kicked off. But Daisy, the Minnesota girl, I'm obviously rooting for her. They ended on good terms. She spent the night. Who knows if they freaked it. But honestly, she just would not stop yapping about her, implant in her ear. I was kind of like, okay, Daisy, there's more to you. She's like, no man has ever loved me because of my ear thing. No one's ever got me. And I'm like, I have a hard time believing that, Daisy. I really do. I feel like a lot of men are attracted to you. You're not bad looking. She's acting like she's ugly. That every man's like, oh, haha, look at her. She can't hear properly. And Joey's like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. And gosh, honestly, Joey's got some charm to him. He has 3 women infatuated with him. Like they're making him their personality, which is crazy. Following Daisy, we still had 15 minutes left of the episode, and typical reality TV, they ended on a to be continued, as Kelsey was like, I just really need to talk about Joey before we go to the rose ceremony. And she wrote him a letter that said, like, we need to talk. And they were making it all dramatic, and she put it in his doorway. And Joey gets out of his elevator, walks up to the door, pulls it out, reads it, goes in his room. and he's just like, I don't understand. Why does she need to talk to me? I thought everything went well. I thought the day was fine. I'm just like, oh, stop crying, you little crybaby. You got all these women all in love with you. Quit acting like a little baby, Joey. Should have picked Maria last episode. I'm just saying, but they end on a to be continued, and the next episode dropping next Monday, so hopefully I'll be able to watch. I don't know. We're usually busy on Mondays. I've been watching every episode on Tuesdays, but they're having a women's tell-all, so after we find out what Kelsey's letter was, which one of the 3 women will be booted, the final 2 women will sit side by side with Joey as the other 30 women will all sit in front of him, and I believe this is live. Isn't the women's tell-all live? Actually, it can't be live. It can't be live because they already have the finale planned out. So, I don't know what's going to go on with Joey, that little gangster man, who he'll pick, what'll happen. Obviously, I think he's going to pick Daisy and Kelsey, but I'm more intrigued to see what Kelsey says. I'm getting the vibes she's been hiding something from Joey. Maybe she reveals she's transgender and that it's all been a ploy, because that's what reality TV is all about. I'm just kidding, internet. Don't come for me. I just say absurd things. But yeah, The Bachelor rages on. Absolutely absurd show. Another absurd show is Love is Blind. Not to throw that in there. I watched a couple of episodes of that. That is such a weird show. But The Bachelor, super fun. But I don't think we're going to get another Bachelor for a while. I think we're getting a Bachelorette, a Golden Bachelorette, and then a Bachelor. So it could be a while. So Joey's going to be our final Bachelor for the foreseeable future. I don't know what he'll choose, but I wish him luck. And I'll tell you what really helps with your luck, and that is knowing the laws of power. That is right. Why use luck when you can use power to your advantage? We haven't talked about the 48 laws of power in a minute, but you know what? I've read the 2 chapters. I'm ready to share with you the knowledge I've obtained. So let's go over the 2 latest laws that I have looked at. Yes, the 48 laws of power. We're almost at the end, ladies and gentlemen. We're almost at the end. I've read 44 and 45. That's what we're going to talk about today. But I only have 3 laws left. And, obviously, I'm going to keep this book. I'm going to reference it for probably the rest of my life. I mean, it's such a useful book. But, I'm going to have to find a new book to read. Maybe a new book to talk about. I did want to read the Dune book. Because, of course, I was so hyped about the Dune Part 2, and after rewatching Part 1 was super good. But, I need a book like that to fall asleep to. This is too serious. I feel like I actually have to pay attention to what I'm reading compared to just like a fantasy fiction book. But hey, nonetheless, let's get right into it. Law number 44 says, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. The mirror effect. Ooh, the judgment. The mirror reflects reality, but it is also the perfect tool for deception. When you mirror your enemies doing exactly as they do, they cannot figure out your strategy. The mirror effect mocks and humiliates them, making them overreact. By holding up a mirror to their psyches, you seduce them with the illusion that you share their values. By holding up a mirror to their actions, you teach them a lesson. Few can resist the power of the mirror effect. Ooh, how luminous, how looming, I don't know, some word, how daunting, something. It's a category movie I'm trying to use. How ominous, that's what it is, how ominous that was. The mirror effect. Mirrors have the power to disturb us. Gazing at our reflection in the mirror, we most often see what we want to see, the image of ourselves with which we are most comfortable. We tend not to look too closely, ignoring the wrinkles and blemishes. In using mirror effects, we symbolically recreate the disturbing power of mirroring the actions of others. As we mimic their movements, we use that to unsettle and infuriate them. When we feel mocked or cloned or object-like, we get angry. So by doing that, you can easily disarm someone and figure out their, the keys, how they tick. There are 4 main mirror effects in the realm of power. These are the neutralizing effect, the narcissist effect, the moral effect, and the hallucinatory effect. So, starting with the neutralizing effect, basically the example they gave in ancient Greek mythology, the Gorgon Medusa had serpents for hair, but the hero Perseus managed to slay Medusa by polishing his bronze shield into a mirror, and then he used the reflection in the mirror to guide him as he crept up and cut off her head without looking at her directly. If this shield in this instance was a mirror, the mirror was also a kind of shield. Medusa could not see Perseus, she only saw her own reflected actions, and behind this screen, the hero stole up and destroyed her. Here's the essence. Do what your enemies do, following their actions as best you can, and they cannot see what you are up to. They are blinded by your mirror. Their strategy for dealing with you depends on your reacting to them in a way characteristic of you. Neutralize it by playing a game of mimicry with them. The tactic has a mocking, even infuriating effect. Most of us remember the childhood experience of someone teasing us by repeating our words exactly. I remember that. After a while, usually not long, we wanted to punch them in the face, which I did. I used to just punch everyone in the face. I'm being sarcastic. Working more subtly as an adult, you can still unsettle your opponents this way. Shielding your own strategy with the mirror, you lay invisible traps or push your opponent into the trap they planned for you. Ooh, how fun. The Narcissus effect. Gazing at an image in the waters of a pond, the Greek youth Narcissus fell in love with it. I've actually heard that story. And when he found out that the image was his own reflection, that he therefore could not consummate his love, he drowned himself. All of us have a similar problem. We are profoundly in love with ourselves, but since this love excludes a love object outside ourselves, it remains continuously unsatisfied and unfulfilled. The Narcissus effect plays on this universal narcissism, which is, you look deep into the souls of other people, fathom their inmost desires, their values, tastes, their spirit, and you reflect it back on them, making yourself into a kind of mirror image. This one's pretty simple. You figure out what other people like, what they want to be, and you become that, and that means they will not see any tactics that you were up to. This effect works wonders in both social life and business, and it gives us both the seducer and the courtier's mirror, which we've also talked about that, of course, in previous things. Another one, the moral effect. The power of verbal argument is extremely limited and often accomplishes the opposite of what is intended. As Gracian remarks, the truth is generally seen, rarely heard. The truth is generally seen, rarely heard. The moral effect is a perfect way to demonstrate your ideas through action. Quite simply, you teach others a lesson by giving them a taste of their own medicine, you know? It's all about like moral and immoral. Such as, you know, let's say your roommate has been constantly keeping you up by being loud, and you basically start complaining to him like, gosh, I mean, there's these kids in my class and they're always so loud and you just always bring it up and always bring them up, and maybe he'll recognize it, you know, maybe he'll see something like that. That's just my personal example, but this is almost a teacher's mirror, you know, it's almost like you're being a teacher, trying to teach them like, hey, don't do this, by giving examples of that. And I think the example they gave in this, one of their observances, is a marriage counselor who used examples from real life to kind of point out the issue in the couple's marriage issue. Maybe I'll try and find it as we move through this chapter, but this moral effect, very good. The final one, the hallucinatory effect. Hallucinatory effect, if you will. Mirrors are tremendously deceptive, for they create a sense that you are looking at the real world. Actually, though, you're only staring at a piece of glass, which, as everyone knows, cannot show the world exactly as it is. Everything in a mirror is reversed. When Alice goes through the looking glass in Lewis Carroll's book, she enters a world that is back to front and more than just visually. The hallucinatory effect comes from creating a perfect copy of an object, place, or person. This copy acts as a kind of dummy. People take it for the real thing because it is physical appearances of a real thing. This is the preeminent technique of con artists who strategically mimic the real world to deceive you. It also has application in an area that requires camouflage. That is, the deceiver's mirror. Interesting. Here's a quote from the Book of Five Rings by Miyoto Mushai, who was a Japanese general from the 17th century. When you have come to grips and are striving together with the enemy, and you realize that you cannot advance, you soak in and become one with the enemy. You can win by applying a suitable technique while you are mutually entangled. You can win often decisively with the advantage of knowing how to soak into the enemy, whereas were you to draw apart, you would lose the chance to win. Okay, soak in. You basically become one with him. You become one with your enemy, and you see what moves he makes. A perfect observance of this is Napoleon. You know, when he obviously escaped from his exile on the island of Elba, returns to France. You know, he marches in, reestablishes himself. But there's this man named Talleyrand, and Napoleon hated being outdone. You know, Napoleon never wanted to be outdone. So he often would spy on Talleyrand. He would often spy on Talleyrand. But little did he know is that Talleyrand had spies of his own, and Talleyrand would use those spies to spy on Napoleon's spies. Kind of like, he mirrored him by doing that, sort of like that. And I think Fauci, F-O-U-C-H-E, another one of the advisors to Napoleon, also did this technique on Napoleon. Napoleon thought he was tricky, but no, the people of his council were actually trickier. Here's something from Edgar Allan Poe called The Purloined Letter. When I wish to find out how wise, or how stupid, or how good, or how wicked is anyone, or what are his thoughts at the moment, I fashion the expression of my face as accurately as possible in accordance with the expression of his, and then wait to see what thoughts or sentiments arise in my mind or heart, as if to match or correspond with the expression. It's all about mirroring what is done and looking what to do. Another observance of this was Alcibiades of Athens, and he was very, very popular for blending with all the different cultures of Persia, of Athens, of Sparta. Now, eventually it caught up to him. Eventually he got killed. But this was because he used the mirror effect to always stay alive in perilous times when Athens and Sparta, the Greece world was at war. Persia was at war with everyone. And he was able to blend in with every culture, and he adapted to them. And he was just able to, put up a deception, become a chameleon. And the only reason that he died in the end was because eventually it just became so barbaric. And that was obviously the end of the Greek Empire. But, it was a perfect example of just moving through different cultures, moving through different people, and always being the calm, the collected person. Here's a quote from Sigmund Freud: "The doctor should be opaque to his patients, and like a mirror, should show them nothing but what is shown to him." Show nothing what is shown but to him. Thank you, Sigmund Freud. You are very weird and have your thoughts on a lot of psychological things. They gave so many different examples in this book. I'm talking, they gave 7. So this was a very long chapter to read. But, basically, just in the end, the mirroring of reality offers immense deceptive powers. And obviously, you can use this for good. You don't have to use it for evil, maniacal purposes, as I would only use it for good because I'm a good person. The authority from Sun Tzu of the 4th century. We've mentioned Sun Tzu a number of times. Notable Chinese general. The task of a military operation is to accord deceptively with the intentions of the enemy. Get to know what they want first. Subtly anticipate them. Maintain discipline and adapt to the enemy. Thus, at first, you are like a maiden, so the enemy opens his door. Then you are like a rabbit on the loose, so the enemy cannot keep you out. How fun. How fun. Of course, the image to paint for you in a circle, the shield of Perseus. It is polished into a reflecting mirror. Medusa cannot see you, only her own hideous reflection back at her. Behind such a mirror, you can deceive, mock, and infuriate. With one blow, you sever Medusa's unsuspecting head. But here's a warning. Beware of mirrored situations. You have to be careful. Mirrors contain great power, but also dangerous reefs, including the mirrored situation, a situation that seems to reflect or closely resemble a previous one, mostly in style and surface appearance. You can often back into such a situation without fully understanding it, while as those around you understand it quite well and compare it in you to whatever before. The example of this was, how do I even explain this? In the 1800s, 1860s, there was a composer named Richard Wagner who moved to Munich. He moved to Munich at the behest of Ludwig II, who was known as the Swan King. And as he was there, he soon learned, as he was put in a lavish house, the king had bought this for him because he loved him as a composer. It used to be owned by Lola Montez, who was a courtesan to Ludwig II's grandfather, and all the people of the city hated her. And unbeknownst to Richard, as he actually ended up acting, he kind of mirrored how Lola acted without even intentionally trying to do it, and the people became hatred of him. So you have to be careful about who you mirror, what you mirror, as it can always lead to some resentment from others. Just a bit of a warning for the future for all others. Moving on to the second law for this episode, law number 45, that is, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. The judgment. Everyone understands the need for change in the abstract, but on the day-to-day level, people are creatures of habit. Too much innovation is traumatic and will lead to revolt. If you are new to a position of power or an outsider trying to build a power base, that's me. Make a show of respecting the old way of doing things. If change is necessary, make it feel like a gentle improvement on the past. That is very interesting. That's very interesting. You can't change too much at once. Perfect example that they gave for this law was from Mao Zedong in the 1920s. He's a young communist, wanted to turn China communist, and he pried on the ancient teachings of Confucius. Of course, Confucius died long ago in the 6th century, before even Christ was born. Confucius was around. So, Mao kind of took some of those ancient writings of Confucius, applied it to his own communist things, and was able to convince China that, he had the answer. He had the answer to everything. No people had a more profound attachment to the past than the Chinese, and in the face of this enormous obstacle to reform, Mao's strategy was simple. Instead of struggling against the past, he turned it into his advantage, associating his radical communists with the romantic figures of Chinese history. This worked very well to his favor, as of course Mao Zedong became a great leader, and just it worked very well. Personally, I'm not a big communist guy, but I mean, if it works for Mao, I can use it to work to my own advantage. Here's a quote from Niccolo Machiavelli. "It must be considered that there is nothing more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle, than to initiate a new order of things." I mean, think about this. People hate change. People hate the new. They're so skeptical of it at times. But if you use the new to your favor by combining it with stuff of the old, man, you can do wonders for yourself. The keys to power. Human psychology contains many dualities, one of them being that not even while people understand the need for change, knowing how important it is for institutions and individuals to be occasionally renewed, they are also irritated and upset by changes that affect them personally. They know that change is necessary and that novelty provides relief from boredom, but deep inside they cling to the past. Change in the abstract or superficial change they desire, but a change that upsets core habits and routines is deeply disturbing to them. No revolution has gone without a powerful later reaction against it. For in the long run, the void it creates proves too unsettling to the human animal, who unconsciously associates such voids with death and chaos. The opportunity for change and renewal seduces people to the side of the revolution, but once the enthusiasm fades, which it will, they are left with a certain emptiness. Yearning for the past, they create an opening for it to creep back in. A lot of examples they gave throughout here. I mean, it's just unlimited examples, but let's just go to the authority from Niccolo Machiavelli, one of the greats of all time. "He who desires or attempts to reform the government of a state and wishes to have it accepted must at least retain the semblance of the old forms, so that it may seem to the people that there has been no change in the institutions, even though in fact they are entirely different from the old ones, for the great majority of mankind are satisfied with appearances as though they were realities." Image for you, the cat. Creature of habit, it loves the warmth of the familiar, upset its routine, like such as you upsetting it. Whether you disrupt its space, it will grow unmanageable and psychotic. Placate it by supporting its rituals. If change is necessary, deceive the cat by keeping the smell of the past alive. Place objects familiar to it in strategic locations. The only other reversal in this is the past is a corpse to be used as you see fit. If you use it wrongly and you portray a negative image, such as the use of it's kind of like the old example we gave for the reversal, where if you act too much like something of the past and that was bad, people might not really associate with it. But example I'm thinking for this is definitely politics, and I'm thinking more president, is that Donald Trump drew some similarities to the JFKs, to the Ronald Reagans, to some of those, presidents a lot of Republicans love. And that was in a good way. But people like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, they drew too many similarities to each other in a negative way for voters, which I think is kind of impactful, especially with the election we have coming up, trying to draw on the past, try and bring people back to a good time when things were good, if you will. But 48 laws of power today. Just know you can use the fast to your advantage, but just don't reform too quickly. Use it subtly. 3 more laws remain. Hopefully I'll get those read over the weekend, and on episode 75 of the podcast, episode 75, our 75th episode, we can cover the final 3 laws and wrap up the 48 laws of power. It's fun to talk about, but man, it exhausts my voice. I honestly need water. If I'm being honest. So yeah, that's 40 laws of power. They're fun, and I will use them to take over the world. I'm just kidding. But speaking of revisiting the past, how about we revisit UFC 200? Because, that was the last milestone UFC event we had, unless you consider UFC 250, but I don't really. UFC 200, of course, a month out from UFC 300. Let's look back at what went down at UFC 200. UFC 200 took place on July 9th, 2016. That's right, almost 8 years ago. This event took place. Pretty crazy to see. And it was headlined by Miesha Tate and Amanda Nunes. But that was not originally the main event that was supposed to take place. It was originally going to be Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz, the rematch. It was supposed to take place at UFC 200, but I don't know what occurred, but the UFC decided to cancel the fight due to issues with just the contract between McGregor and Nate Diaz, so that fight fell through. April 27th, though, the UFC announced the new headliner would be Daniel Cormier and Jon Jones fighting for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship in the rematch of the century. Unfortunately, I believe this was when Jon Jones was pulled out. Yes, Jon Jones was pulled out due to a anti-doping policy violation, and Daniel Cormier declared that he would still fight an opponent if it made sense. Unfortunately, nothing came about. Actually, Anderson Silva stepped in to replace him, but that fight was like, you know what, Anderson Silva moving up to light heavyweight to take on Daniel Cormier is just not going to be the main event. So the already scheduled women's bantamweight championship bout between Miesha Tate and Amanda Nunes was moved up to the main event. On June 4th, a few hours before the UFC 199 event, Ariel Helwani broke the news that former UFC heavyweight champion Brock Lesnar was going to be on the card, and due to this, Helwani's was actually kind of ejected from the event and received a lifetime ban from covering future UFC live events. The organization faced a major backlash from the media community as well as fans before reinstating his media credentials, which was pretty crazy. It's also revealed that Jim Miller would be the other guy to fight on this card, him and Brock Lesnar being the only fighters to fight on 100 and 200. The undercard was absolutely stacked, a lot of fun stuff, so yeah. Let's dive into all the fights. We kicked off the night with, of course, the wonderful, the great Jim Miller, who got a 2-minute knockout of Takanori Gomi, last fought in the UFC in 2017, ended his UFC run on a 5-fight losing streak, getting finished in round 1 in all of those fights. Wow, but Jim Miller, this was a young Jim Miller. Not really. This was Jim Miller in his mid-30s. But, yeah, fun to see Jim on this card. And you know what? He got it done. Took him down, got a little TKO, and we'll be happy to see Jim Miller on UFC 300. The only fighter to ever appear on all 3 cards. Hopefully, don't get injured, Jim. Do not get injured. Following that, we had Gegard Mousai, who was actually a champion in Bellator, knocked out Thiago Santos with a full-on knockout punch 30 seconds before the end of round 1. Absolutely dominated him throughout that whole round. Actually earned a performance bonus for it. Gegard Mousai would actually leave the UFC in 2017, riding a 5-fight win streak, 4 of those being finishes. Pretty crazy that he decided to leave because of pay, which is pretty fascinating. Thiago Santos, of course, would actually go on to get a title shot 3 years later. Following that, Joe Lauzon would actually TKO Diego Sanchez in just under a minute and a half, earning himself a little $50K bonus. Happy to see from Joe Lauzon. I believe he's also retired, as well as Diego Sanchez, who was, I believe, forced to retire because he sucked. But yeah, interesting to see those names around there. Sage Northcutt fought Enrique Marin here. Sage Northcutt was, of course, supposed to be the greatest UFC prospect of all time, before he was shockingly submitted in 2016 by Brian Barberina. Following that, he would win this fight against Enrique Martin before getting submitted by Mickey Gall, going on a little 3-fight win streak before being released from the company. But till this one, Sage was able to withstand the grappling of Enrique Martin and the control time to go to a striking decision win. Good for Sage. I think he's doing his stuff now in one championship. After that, this was on the prelims. TJ Dillashaw beat Rafael Assunção, a younger TJ Dillashaw, close to a title shot. He was able to get a win over Rafael Assunção, who was recently retired. Fascinating to see those guys were on this card. After that, we had Kelvin Gastelum continuing his tear of beating former UFC title challengers as he got a unanimous decision win over Johnny Hendricks. Lovely to see. This would be sort of the beginning of the end for Johnny Hendricks in his career, but nonetheless, happy to see him doing this. And this was only Kelvin Gastelum's what? It couldn't have been but his. Kelvin Gastelum's been in the UFC longer than I thought. Wow. Yeah, good win for Calvin. Just interested to see those names on UFC 200. After that, we had Juliana Pena beating Kat Zingano in a pure grappling fight. And what do I mean by that? I mean, and I kid you not, 13 minutes and 57 seconds of this fight were spent in control time positions. Julia Pena had 4 minutes and 52 seconds. Kat Zingano had 9 minutes. But they just gave the nod to Juliana Pena. Wow, what a boring fight that looked like. Wow, this, Yikes, definitely a fight I wouldn't want to be a part of or watched. After that, we got into our prelims. Our main card. So, prelims in total. You had Juliana Pena, former women's bantamweight champion, bantamweight title challenger. Kat Zingano, former title challenger. Kelvin Gastelum, interim title challenger. Johnny Hendricks, welterweight title challenger. TJ Dillashaw, champion. Wow, a lot of fun guys on here. On the main card, Cain Velasquez got the card started by dominating Travis Browne, TKOing him with just 3 seconds left of round number 1. He knocked him down. He took him down. Cain Velasquez, pure domination. Pure domination in this one, and this would actually be his last win in the UFC. He would actually go on a little retirement after this win, come back and get knocked out by Ngannou. But happy to see that from Cain Velasquez. This would be the beginning of the end for Travis Browne, who would lose 3 straight after this one. Following that, we had an epic fight between Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar, who I believe Jose Aldo, wow, this was a 5-round fight, the second fight on the card. Is that correct? I don't know is this true that we had a 5-round fight as the second fight on the main card. I thought the UFC did not do that. Going to the results, wow, this was actually turned out to be true. A featherweight championship bout was the second fight on the main card. Wow, very fascinating. Jose Aldo got an unanimous decision win over Frankie Edgar in a competitive bout. Pretty much back and forth striking the whole way. 80 significant strikes for Jose Aldo, 79 for Frankie Edgar. Frankie went 0 of 11 on takedowns. Wow, I've never seen that. That is some weird booking. That is some very weird booking. Did they have an explanation for that? No, they don't. They absolutely don't. That is so weird. That's really weird. But yeah, cool to see that we had Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar battling out on this card. After that, we had Daniel Cormier's fight against Anderson Silva, where he got 10.5 minutes control time on 3 takedowns. Yeah, just took him down every round. Didn't even finish him, wanted to be respectful. You know what? Maybe Anderson Silva went on too long fighting, but Daniel Cormier, good win for him. Co-main event, roided up Brock Lesnar taking on Mark Hunt. This would actually lead to a lawsuit from Mark Hunt that the UFC acknowledged Brock Lesnar was using steroids, as Brock dominated him, 4 of 8 on takedowns for 8 minutes of control time, 137 total strikes to 46, 51 significant strikes to 13. In round 1, Mark Hunt landed 1 significant strike. Brock Lesnar was an absolute fire in rounds 1 and 3. This would actually be the last time. Actually, this wasn't even the last time Mark Hunt fought in the UFC. He would fight 5 more times, getting finished in 2 of those. Wow. Brock Lesnar, though, definitely not coming back to the UFC, as he's almost 50 years old, which is pretty crazy to see. That was your co-main event. Then we got into the main event, where Amanda Nunes, the greatest women's fighter of all time, would win the Bantamweight Championship, submitting Miesha Tate with just under 2 minutes left in round number 1. Dominated her, literally just outstruck her, somehow wound up on her back and submitted her. Yeah, UFC 200, I would say, is not as memorable in a good way compared to UFC 100, but with everything that the UFC has planned for UFC 300, I think it is going to blow this event out of the water exponentially going to blow this out of the water. So pumped for UFC 300. But yes, we'll leave UFC 200 in the past. Without a doubt, I have no real interest in revisiting this pay-per-view, if I'm being honest. We'll leave this here. We'll leave UFC 200 right here. But speaking of leaving stuff here, looking towards the future, there is something that I do want to point out, and that since we last spoke on Monday, there have been a lot, and I mean a lot of updates in the NFL free agency market with trades and stuff, and I believe we do have a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to the NFL. I believe we last left off with the news that I'm trying to decide where they left off, because so much has taken place. When we last talked, when was this? 2 days ago? No, that hasn't taken place. My goodness, wow, so much has taken place since we last spoke. There we go. When we last checked in, the Bengals had released Joe Mixon, but it actually came out that Joe Mixon was traded to the Texans. So that's right, Joe Mixon is on the Texans. He was just traded for some draft picks, I think, which is cool to see, but that was what we last left off on. Let me talk about everything else that has taken place. Following the insane Monday we had, a lot took place. Okay, so first off, the Jets have signed Tyrod Taylor as their backup QB. They did not want to deal with any more Mike White or Zach Wilson stepping in. So Tyrod Taylor, how about that? The journeyman moves to New York. Actually, he was in Buffalo, so I guess he just moved to New York City. The Vikings signed Sam Darnold on a $10 million deal. 1-year deal, don't ask me. Don't ask me, no one asked me. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Sam Darnold. I think he is just mediocre. I think he's average. I don't think that he's going to be our starter. I pray he isn't. Give whoever we draft will be our starter. I don't even know who the Vikings could draft that I would be upset about because, I mean, all these rookies are good. They all seem promising. I do kind of want J.J. McCarthy just because I don't know. I watched him play in the Michigan-Minnesota game and it was cool, but you know what? That was an L from the Vikings, but a W from the Vikings. They signed Aaron Jones on a 1-year deal. You know, the NFC North loves passing around players. It's like the NFC North is, it's like the friend group that passes around the same girl. You know, every guy's had a chance with that girl. We the NFC North like to share our players. So we get Aaron Jones. He replaces Alexander Madison and Ty Chandler. I'm excited to see this. Aaron Jones in the purple and gold. Should be a fun time. Moving on to the Commanders, they signed Marcus Mariota to a 1-year, $6 million deal. I'll be interested to see how Mariota does, as he, at the moment, is looking like the Commanders' starter. But we'll speak about something in a moment. He might actually be the backup with what I think the Commanders are going to advance along with. The Cincinnati Bengals have signed Mike Gesicki to a 1-year deal. The tight end will move from, where was Mike Gesicki originally? Wasn't he a Dolphin? Then he was a Patriot, and now he is a Bengal. Cool for him. As I mentioned, Joe Mixon to the Texans. That's going to be absolutely crazy. The Texans are loading up. They're going to be scary in the AFC. I think the AFC South is absolutely done for with how good this team's looking. Falcons, they had a new threat in Daryl Mooney, who signed a 3-year, $39 million deal. He was like, hey, Kirk Cousins, I want you throwing me some touchdowns. No more Justin Fields, please. The Dolphins have signed Shaquille Barnett to a 1-year, $9 million deal. The linebacker will be a great asset on this Dolphins team that's really looking to contend in the Eastern, not the East. Where are they at? They're in the South. Are they in the East? They might actually be in the East. I can't recall because I'm flustered because the biggest news from 2 days ago was Derrick Henry, the Alabama boy, the former Tennessee Titan, signed a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens. That's right, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are on the same team. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's going to be an absolute fun time watching those two play together. And Derrick Henry's such an amazing soul. At his announcement press conference, he wore a purple suit, which he wore to his grandmother's funeral. Rest in peace, Derrick Henry's grandmother and my own grandmother. So that really hit me for Derrick Henry. I'm like, Derrick Henry's a great guy. I saw some people being upset at him for joining this team, just clowning him for sucking. I'm like, you know what? You guys suck. You're not making millions like my boy D. Henry. I love you, Derrick. I'm excited to see how you do with the Ravens. The Giants have signed Drew Lock from the Seahawks. I don't know. I think the Giants might draft a QB, if I'm being honest. I think Daniel Jones might be out of there before we know it. But Drew Lock, happy to see him still in the league. He's a funny guy, still kicking it. Good for Drew. The Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've signed Patrick Queen from the Ravens, the linebacker, to a 3-year, $41 million deal. I don't know what the Steelers are cooking, but you know what? They got a good ad with Patrick Queen. I'm surprised the Ravens let him walk. He was very, very good. He was a very good player. I'm also hearing rumorings that Deebo Samuel may actually be moving to the Ravens. They might be trying to trade for him. And by the way, Deebo Samuel is now Deebo Samuel Sr., as he named his son, Deebo Samuel Jr. Just a really weird side note. I thought it pretty funny. The Houston Texans signed Daniel Hunter to a 2-year, $49 million deal. That's right. The Vikings lost Daniel. We've lost Daniel Hunter and Kirk Cousins. If we lose Justin Jefferson, I may have to commit. I'm joking. Commit to a university, obviously. But yeah, Texans are absolutely loading up. And Daniel Hunter is just, look at Daniel Hunter's arms if you ever get a picture. That boy is shredded. That boy a menace. Moving back down to Miami, the Dolphins, they've signed Jordan Poyer on a 1-year deal from the Bills. They're loading up on defense. Happy to see it. The Panthers have actually traded for Deontay Johnson. It's a pretty fun trade, and they've sent him Dante Jackson in return. The Steelers will get cornerback Dante Johnson and a pick swap in exchange for Deontay Johnson going to Carolina. The weather may be nicer down there, Deontay, but don't be fooled. You're going to have to try and catch passes from Bryce Young. Best of luck to ya. Eagles have signed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. The defensive back comes in on a 3-year, $33 million deal. He had previously been with Detroit. Eagles, they're trying everything they can to contend. I mean, they signed Saquon. Going to be fun. They still got Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. You know what? Best of luck to the upcoming season. The Browns are currently finalizing a 1-year contract with QB Jameis Winston to be the backup. It just brings me so much joy seeing Jameis in the league. He's such a troll. He's such a funny guy, but he's just one of those guys I can't imagine him not being in the league. One of the staples of good backup quarterbacks. The Chargers are releasing wide receiver Mike Williams. I'll be excited to see who picks him up. Dude was an absolute monster before tearing, I believe, his ACL. It was absolutely terrible, but some teams should pick him up. How about the Vikings? I'll take him, Mike. I'll take him, Mike Williams. I will happily take you as a Minnesota Vikings fan. The Raiders have released Jimmy Garoppolo, and I don't think anyone's going to sign Jimmy. Dude went from being a legit guy out of New England, having a good year with the 49ers, to sucking once he joined the Raiders. Pretty comical. I have no words for that. The Titans have signed Mason Rudolph on a 1-year, $3.62 million deal. The veteran QB backup will be helping out Will Levis, I bet. Titans have also signed Calvin Ridley to a 4-year, $92 million deal. Calvin, why did you leave the Jaguars? They were super good. Holy cow. Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins linking up in Tennessee. That's going to be a cool sight to see. Commanders have signed veteran linebacker Bobby Wagner, former Seattle Seahawk, to a 1-year deal. They're going to need that, let me tell you that. Their defense sucked last year. Worst defense in the league. Oh, my goodness. And this brings me so much joy. The Colts are signing quarterback Joe Flacco to a 1-year deal worth up to $8.7 million. That's right. He's going to be helping Anthony Richardson improve himself. And, oh, my gosh, imagine another run with Joe Flacco. Love that guy. Cowboys finally did something. Cowboys hadn't done anything all week as they signed Eric Kendricks, which isn't too bad. He had previously been with the Chargers. Previously, one of my former Minnesota Vikings boys. Love you, Eric. Happy to see him joining Dallas. That defense gets scarier. Lions have agreed to extend head coach Dan Campbell to a contract extension. Good for them. He's clearly changed the culture for the better. They almost made it to the Super Bowl, for goodness sakes. The Cardinals have traded for Desmond Ridder. They're going to be getting Rondale Moore in return. Wow, they're just loading up on wide receivers. It's giving Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. It's giving Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. They traded a bunch of wide receivers, and then he got hurt. So I hope Kirk doesn't get hurt, but I do find that pretty funny. Desmond Ridder going to be backing up Kyler Murray. More quarterbacks on the move, and this is why I bring up Marcus Mariota being a backup for the Commanders, as the Seahawks have traded for Sam Howell. The Seahawks will receive Sam Howell, a 4th-round pick, and a 6th-round pick. The Commanders will receive a 3rd and 5th-round pick, because I think the Commanders are going to be drafting a new QB in this draft, and honestly, Sam Howell is going to be right in the mix to be potentially a starter against Geno Smith. Fun stuff going on there. And the final signing of the day, or as we're recording this, as of 5:01 p.m. Central Time, Eric Armstead, defensive tackle, has signed with the Jaguars. He had previously been on the 49ers. He'll join on a 3-year deal worth $51 million. Absolutely insane. So a lot of movement going on in the NFL. And lastly, we'll congratulate the one and only Brock Purdy, who recently got married to his wife in Iowa. Round of applause for Brock Purdy. Happy to see ya. But yes, the NFL offseason is officially live, and it is just bringing me so much chaos. It's been so fun seeing where all the teams, the players have been signing to. Happy to see it, and we'll keep everyone updated. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about a lot on today's episode. We're over an hour in, and we still have to talk about UFC Vegas 88. We got 13 fights as of Thursday coming at you. Who knows, the weigh-ins or the day of stuff could cancel, but got a lot of fights, got a lot of predictions to make, and we got to get to 70%. We're going to go 13-0 on our predictions. I'm honestly not that confident. These Apex cards, a lot of these fights are 50-50, but I've got a lot of stats to tell you, some info to give you. Let's check all of them out. Kicking off our card for UFC Vegas 88, going down this Saturday, of course, March 16th. Wow, we're already on the 16th of March. That's crazy. Crazy. We kick off the night with a bantamweight matchup. How fun. Let's get it going. We kick it off with Charalampos Ferocious Gregorio. Oh, what a fun name. And Chad the Monster and Hellinger. Charalampos is 8-3. Chad and Hellinger 12-7. 5'7" to 5'6" gives Charalampos 1 inch in height for him. Very, very fun. 3 inches in reach for Charalampos as well. 67 to 64. Both men stand in the orthodox stance. Let's start off with Chad and Hellinger. The 37-year-old is from Calgary, Canada. Of his 12 victories, 7 KOs, and 3 subs. Very impressive. Now, out of his 7 losses, 6 of those are by submission. I found that crazy. I found that absolutely crazy that besides his September 2022 loss to Alatenge, he has lost every other fight by submission. Chad debuted in the UFC in 2022 after winning on Season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. He would debut with a Round 3 knockout punch of Jesse Strader. Following that, he would lose to Alatenge, I mentioned, and he last fought in November of 2023, where he got submitted in Round 3 by Jose Johnson. Very interesting there, Chad. 37 years old, not getting much younger. We'll see how he does. As he takes on Charalampos Gregorio, who is from Cyprus. That is in the Mediterranean area. He now lives in New York and trains at Longo and Weidman MMA. Of course, Ray Longo, Chris Weidman, very, very popular gym there. Of his 8 victories, 6 KOs. He's currently on a 4-fight win streak, and he fought on Season 7 of Dana White's Contender Series last time out in August and got a minute TKO of Cameron Smotherman. Charalampos on an absolute tear, on a little knockout streak. Chad's 37. Charalampos has got the height, got the reach. Yeah, give me Charalampos Gregorio. It won't be easy. Heck no, this won't be easy, but he's somewhat experienced. 8-3. I don't exactly know what way Charalampos is going to get this done, but, if all of his other wins are by KO, and I'm actually going to say decision. I'm going to say decision simply because Charalampos has never gotten a submission. That seems to be the only way you can beat Chad Hellinger. So we'll kick off the night with a decision win for Charalampos Gregorio. Plus, he's got a cool name. Who doesn't love a little cool name? Shockingly, the second fight of the prelims of the night, Thiago Moises versus Rich Ramirez. Thiago Moises was main eventing against Islam Makhachev in 2021. Last time he fought Benoit Saint-Denis, and now he's the second fight in the prelims. The disrespect. This should be on the main card. Thiago Moises 17-7, Mitch Ramirez 8-1. 5'11" to 5'9" gives Mitch Ramirez 2 inches in height, 1 inch in reach for Mitch as well. 71 to 70. Both fighters have a orthodox stance when they fight. That means they throw with their right hand forward. Let's get it going with Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos, of his 17 career victories, has 8 subs and 3 KOs. The 28-year-old is from Brazil and trains at American Top Team out there. He was supposed to fight Brad Riddell in Brad Riddell's big 2-year return to the octagon, but Brad Riddell had to pull out, so instead, on short notice, steps in Mitch Ramirez. Thiago Moises, though, has been in the UFC since 2018, of course, won on Season 1 of Dana White's Contender Series Brazil. He's fought in Beneil Dariush, Demiris Magulov, Michael Johnson, Bobby Green, Islam Makhachev. Like I mentioned, last fought Benoit Saint-Denis in September. Dude fights the best of the best and actually holds 3 submissions in the UFC. Very, very cool. His opponent, Mitch Ramirez, who steps in on short notice. Mitch is 31 years old from Las Vegas and trains at Syndicate MMA. 5 KOs and 2 subs make up his 8 career victories, and he's coming off a win in December, which he won by knockout. Mitch last fought in the UFC, though, in August, where he got knocked out by Carlos Prates in round number 2. So Dana White's Contender Series, of course, isn't officially like a UFC debut, so this will be Mitch Ramirez's UFC debut, but I'm sorry, Mitch, it's not going to save you. I understand your only losses to a knockout guy like Carlos Prates, but yeah, Thiago Moises is a dangerous boy. You're taking this on short notice. Thiago's going to manhandle you. Give me a round 1 submission for Thiago. Thiago's a top-tier guy, okay? I feel like he's been disrespected with this. I understand it's short notice. It's disrespectful putting him down this low. I don't think the height matters at all. I mean, you last fought Benoit Saint-Denis. The last 2 guys you beat before he fought Benoit, he submitted with a rear naked choke. And when we look at his losses, I mean, like I said, Beneil Dariush, Demiris Magulov, Islam Makhachev, Joel Alvarez, Benoit Saint-Denis. Come on. You kind of start to see a pattern here that Thiago's only really lost the top guys. He's lost the number one pound-for-pound guy, who he won a round over, might not add. Took him to round number 4. Number 7 ranked Beneil Dariush. Damir Zagulov was ranked in the top 15. Joel Alvarez was once in the top 15. Benoit's almost in the top 10. Yeah, give me Thiago Santos in this one. Getting into our first women's fight of the night, I believe. What do we have? Do we have 3 women's fights on tonight's card? I think we do. First one, women's strawweight division, as Jacqueline Amorim takes on Corey Poppins McKenna. Well, Corey Poppins McKenna, what a fun name. Jacqueline Amorim, 7-1. Corey McKenna is 8-2. Both women are 5'3", but an insane 10-inch reach advantage for Jacqueline Amorim. She's got 68-inch reach. Corey McKenna only has a 58-inch reach. She got some short-ass arms. Both women stay on the orthodox stance. I'm excited to see how Jacqueline Amorim does in this one. But let's check in with Corey Poppins McKenna. She is 24 years young, from Wales. That's right, she's from the UK area. Trains at Team Alpha Male. Of her 8 victories, 2 by knockout, 2 by sub, and of her 2 losses, she has never been finished. Debuted in the UFC in 2020 after winning on Season 4 of Dana White's Contender Series. Debuted with win over Kay Hansen. Lost the split decision to Elise Reed. Following that, she's been on a little 2-fight win streak in 2022. She got a Von Flue choke over Miranda Granger and beat in December of 2022 Cheyenne Velasquez. So it's been way over a year. It's been about a year and 4 months since she last fought, but, she's a grappler through and through. As much as I can see, in all 4 of her wins, she's landed a takedown, which was the exact opposite of what I like to see when I'm looking for a fun fight. But, let's check in with Jacqueline Amorim. Jacqueline Amorim, 28 years old, from Brazil, now trains in Florida, is a master in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, actually trains at AT&T. That's her gym, American Top Team. Of her 7 victories, 2 knockouts and 5 subs, gives her a 100% finish rate. Debuted in April of 2023, where she lost a close decision to Sam Hughes. She would come back in August of that year, though, and dominate Montserrat Conijo Ruiz, attempting 4 submissions, getting 8 minutes of control time before finally TKOing her with just before a minute left in round number 3. Jacqueline, happy to see you back. Let me tell you, I'm getting a vibe here that Jacqueline Amorim, I love the 100% finish rate. That's why I'm picking her, but I'm also seeing that Corey McKenna loves takedowns. She is more rusty than Jacqueline Amorim is. Jacqueline Amorim hasn't fought in like 8 months. It's been over a year for Corey McKenna. And I'm thinking Corey might land a takedown, get caught. I'm feeling Jacqueline Amorim round 2 submission. Round 2 submission for Jacqueline Amorim. Personally, McKenna's, I think, is very average, and Amorim really gives me someone who can be very good in this division. Now, the 5'3" height doesn't help, but yet again, this is the 3rd fight on the prelim. So we'll go with Jacqueline Amorim by round 2 submission. Keeping us rolling, we go to the men's featherweight division as Josh Culiabo, nicknamed Kuya, takes on Danny El Puma Silva. Danny Silva, Josh Culiabo, 11-2-1 professionally. Danny Silva, 8-1, 5'11 to 5'10. Danny has an inch in height, and Josh has 3 inches in reach, 73 to 70. Switch stance for Danny Silva, orthodox for Josh Culiabo. Josh Culiabo, the 29-year-old, is from Australia and is labeled as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, but don't let that fool you, as he has 5 KOs and 1 sub of his 11 career victories. Debuted in the UFC in 2020 against Jalen Turner, where he would get TKO'd in New Zealand in round number 2. Following that, he would go to a draw against Charles Jourdain in October of 2020, where he actually knocked down Charles at one point. After that, he would go on a little 3-fight win streak. Wins in 2021 over Shaylin Nuradam-Beek, win in 2022 over Shangwoo Choi, and a win in February of last year against Melsik Bagdasaryan, where he actually got a rear naked chokehold. Last fought in July, though, where Leroy Murphy dominated him, and I mean dominated him. Knocked him down, took him down, outstruck him, but don't be fooled. Josh is good. His only 2 career losses are to Jalen Turner, who was just added to EA Sports, is the number 10 lightweight in the world, and Leroy Murphy, who is just on the verge of the men's featherweight rankings. I actually think he's ranked number 14th. He's worked his way in. And by the way, a draw against Charles Jourdain, not too shabby. Josh, you seem pretty good. I like your style, but let's see how you handle Danny El Puma Silva, the 27-year-old from California. His head coach is actually Cub Swanson, former featherweight fighter. He's labeled as a boxer, and of his 8 career victories, 5 knockouts. Currently on a little 2-fight win streak. Actually last fought on Dana White's Contender Series in Season 7 in September, where he landed the most significant strikes in Dana White's Contender Series history with 204. Fought Angel Pacheco, almost knocked him out in round 1, outstruck him in rounds 2 and 3. This is going to be a banger of a fight. I would not be surprised if Culiaba and Silva is fight of the night, but this one's tough for me. Because I can see how good Josh Culiaba is. I can also see how good Danny Silva could be, good striking. But, I think if you're struggling with someone like Angel Pacheco, and you get in and you deal with someone like Josh Culiaba, who is a killer, who has the experience, I'm going with Josh Culiaba on this one. I'm going with Josh Culiaba. I'm going to say decision. I'm going to give a little decision to Josh Culiaba. But this should be close. It's always tough when these Dana White's Contender Series guys make their debut. You never know how it's going to go. But I think Josh Culiaba is very talented. Nothing knocking Danny Silva. This could be potential for fight of the night. Moving on to the smallest division in the men's category, as the men's flyweights do battle with Rafael Pastor Filho and Ode, the Jamaican sensation, Osborne. Rafael Filho is 15-3 professionally, Ode Osborne 12-6 with 1 no contest. 5'7" is the height for both men, and a notable 5 inches in reach for Ode Osborne, 73-68. Southpaw stance with that left hand for Ode, orthodox with Rafael Filho. Let's first check in with Ode, the Jamaican sensation. 32-year-old was born in Jamaica, but now actually lives in Wisconsin. Trains at Syndicate MMA, and of his 12 wins, has 4 knockouts and 5 subs. Very notable, of his 6 losses, 5 of those he's been finished in, so not too pretty if you ask me. He's been finished in every fight he's lost in the UFC. He's actually only ever gone the distance in 2 UFC fights, so don't be surprised if this one doesn't go too long. Ode debuted in 2020 after winning on Season 3 of Dana White's Contender Series in 2019 with a round 1 armbar. He would debut at UFC 246 where he would get submitted by Brian Kelleher, but after that he would follow that up with a win in February of 2021 with a 26-second knockout of Jerome Rivera. Unfortunately, in August of 2021, he would get hit with a flying knee in round 1 by Manel Cape, but he would follow that up with a good close win against CJ Vergara. After that, he would have a crazy minute knockout of Zaruk Adashev, earning him a $50,000 performance bonus, before in August of 2022 getting knocked out cold himself by Tyson Nam. Last win came in February of 2023, where he won a split decision against Charles Johnson. His last fight, though, was in August of 2023, where he was submitted by Asu Al-Mabayev. And in the very short time that fight lasted, Ode Osborne was only able to land four strikes in that fight, 4 significant strikes, and that's because he was fighting a pure grappler like Asu Al-Mabayev, which is kind of what you get from Rafael Filho. Rafael Filho, the 30-year-old, is from Brazil. Of his 15 victories, 5 knockouts, 9 subs. Of his 3 losses, 2 of those have actually been by submission. One on Season 6 of Dana White's Contender Series in September of 2022, where he got a round 3 knockout of Robert Echivre. He would debut on short notice in March of 2023 against Muhammad Mokaev, where he would take him into round 3, almost submitting him twice, before getting submitted himself with 28 seconds left. He had followed that up with his last fight and last win in July of 2023, where after getting dropped by Daniel Perez in the opening seconds of the round, would take him down and submit him with an arm triangle in round number 1. This is a tough one, boys. This is a tough one. The reach really is what makes me lean Ode Osborne. He's got knockout power. Rafael Filho's been clipped before, but Ode Osborne's weakness is grappling. Matchmakers, you did a beautiful job with this one. I'm thinking this just comes down to who gets caught first. Who gets caught first? Does Ode give up the takedown? Does Rafael, get knocked down or what? Get the takedown, I meant, or Ode get the knockout? It's very fascinating. From what I've seen, though, Rafael really struggled against Muhammad Mokaev, who's a pure grappler, and we actually know how good Muhammad Mokaev is. But, getting dropped by Daniel Perez early on, Ode has had some experience, in dealing with grappling. So I'm actually going to give this one to Ode Osborne. I'm going to give this one to Ode Osborne. By the way, might I add, fun fact about Ode Osborne is he has actually never lost back-to-back fights. Of his 4 losses in the UFC and 6 losses professionally, he's never lost 2 fights in a row. And I think he stings, Rafael in round 1. So we're going to give a little round 1 KO. to Ode Osborne. I think we get another knockout on the prelims. Actually, I haven't given out a knockout yet. I've given out 2 decisions, 2 submissions, and now a KO. So that's what I think will happen, but should be interesting to see a clashing of styles, if you will. Moving into our second women's fight of the night, we go to the women's bantamweight division, where we actually have, is this woman ranked? The number 14 ranked Chelsea Chandler and the number 13 ranked Josie Nunez. Josie Nunez takes on Chelsea Chandler. Nunez is 10-1. Chandler is 5-2. 5'8", 252 gives Chandler 6 inches in height. Josie Nunez is only 5'2". Wow, she's almost as tall as my girlfriend. Wow, she's tiny too. Sorry, Lexi. 68-inch reach to 67 gives Chelsea 1 inch in reach. Both women throw the left hand with the southpaw. This is going to be interesting. Let's check in with the number 13th ranked Josie Nunez. Currently 10-1 professionally in her career. Of those 10 wins, 7 by knockout. The 30-year-old is from Brazil and is on a 9-fight win streak. That's right. She started off her career 1-1 and since losing decided, I'm never going to do that again. That one loss was by decision to Talia Santos in 2013. That's right, Talia Santos, the woman who took Valentina Shevchenko to a split decision and will actually be participating in the next season of the PFL in their women's whatever division. Very fascinating. Josiane is 3-0 in the UFC and actually won her debut in 2021 with a round 1 knockout of Bea Malaki. Got $50K for it. Has fought once in the last 2 years, or has fought once in each year the last 2 years. Beat Ramona Pasquale in 2022 and beat Zara Farn in January of 2023. Competitive fights in all of those. So I'll be interested to see, but that height is really throwing me off. Chelsea Chandler, 5-2 professionally. Of those 5 wins, 2 KOs, 1 sub. Of those 5 wins, 33 years old from Stockton, California. She trains at Cesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu with the Diaz brothers, Nate and Nick Diaz. Very cool to see. The Hoist Gracies, of course, legendary crew. Her last win came on my birthday, October 1st, 2022, where she got a round 1 TKO of Julija Storyalenko. Her last fight, though, was in July of 2023, where she lost a unanimous decision to Norma Dumont. Look, Chelsea, you've got the size, but I'm just not really getting that you're that good. You know, I understand that you train with the Diaz brothers, but Josie Nunez, despite having 6 inches height deficit, is still on a 9-fight win streak, is still pretty talented, been improving as she goes. I'm giving a decision win to Josie Nunez. I honestly think, when I see the 9-fight win streak, when I see that you are just improving as you go, give me Josie Nunez by decision. Plus, Chelsea Chandler sprinted away from Norma Dumont last time they fought, which was super comical. Look up that clip if you ever need a good laugh, because it was very, very, very odd. Let's get into our final prelim of the night as we have a 6-fight main card, 7-fight prelims as we head to the men's lightweight division as Nathan Lethal Levi takes on Mike Beast Boy Davis. Nathan Levy is 8-1, Mike Davis 10-2. Levy has 3 inches less in height, 5'9" to 6 foot, gives Mike 3 inches there, and an inch in reach for Mike as well, 72 to 71. Orthodox stands for Mike, southpaw for Nathan Levy. It's Levi, L-E-V-Y. Levi? Is that what we're going to call him? Levi? I think we're going to go Levi. Let's kick it off with Beast Boy Mike Davis. The 31-year-old is from Orlando and is a boxer, or his boxing style is what he proclaims to be. Of his 10 victories, 7 KOs and 1 sub, and he currently rides a 3-fight win streak. He actually fought Sodiq Yusuff to a decision on Season 2 of Dana White's Contender Series in 2018. Sodiq Yusuff, of course, is currently ranked number 13th at men's featherweight. Very talented. Big fight coming up against Diego Lopez at UFC 300. And his last loss was in April of 2019, where he got submitted by Gilbert Burns. So how about that? Your 2 losses in your career are to Sodiq Yusuff and Gilbert Burns. Come on, man. Those 3 wins, he got a knockout of Thomas Gifford in 2019, a fight of the night against Mason Jones in 2021. Last got a win on my birthday in 2022 when he beat Vyacheslav Borshev by unanimous decision. But it ain't no easy road for Beast Boy Mike Davis as he takes on the 32-year-old from Israel, Nathan Levi. That is right, 8-1 with 3 submissions to his name. He has a karate background and also trains at Syndicate MMA, same gym as Mitch Ramirez, same gym as, other fighters we're going to talk about. A lot of people training at, Ode Osborne trains at Syndicate MMA, so this should be a fun one. Nathan is 2-1 in the UFC. Debuted in 2021 after winning on Season 4 of Dana White's Contender Series. He would lose his first professional bout to Rafa Garcia. But in April 2022 and December 2022, he got unanimous decision wins over Mike Breeden and Genaro Valdez. I'm sorry, Nate Levi. You're a grappler. Mike's a grappler. But Mike is also a knockout artist. And despite leading on the grappling last time out, both these guys haven't fought in close to a year. I'm going with Mike Beast Boy Davis. Excited to see what he offers. Now, Nate might be fighting with a little extra passion with the whole Israel-Palestine thing, so we'll see, but I'm leaning Mike Davis, and I'm even going to say Mike Davis gets a round... I'm going to say decision. I'm giving a decision. It's giving decision vibes. I feel like we're going to see some grappling in this one. Mike might have the advantage on the feet, but we'll see what happens. So, to recap the prelims, we're going Charlampus Grigio over Chad and Hillinger by decision. We're going Jacqueline Amorim over Corey McKenna by round 2 submission. We're going Josh Culiabao over Danny Silva by decision. We're going Thiago Moises over Mitch Ramirez by round 1 submission. Ode Osborne over Rafael Filo by round 1 knockout. Josiane Nunez over Chelsea Chandler, and Mike Davis over Nathan Levy, both by decision. We are making some realistic picks here that not every fight will be a finish, but if every fight were a finish, that would be awesome. Let's not waste any more time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into the 6-fight main card. And we kick it off with a bang as Gerald, whatever you want to call him, GM3 Mearshart takes on Brian Bam Bam Barberena. And might I just tell you, Gerald Mearshart is looking absolutely jacked for this fight. I'm pumped for this one. Gerald is 35-17 professionally. Brian is 18-11. 6'1" to 6 foot gives Gerald 1 inch in height and also has 5 inches in reach. Southpaw stance for both of these middleweight gentlemen. Gerald Mearshart, I believe, is actually almost has the most wins in middleweight history. He might be potentially able to tie Anderson Silva for either most fights in middleweight history or most wins, one or the other. But the 36-year-old from Wisconsin who trains at Killcliff FC, of his 35 victories, has 6 knockouts and an insane 27 submissions. That's right. He's only ever gone to 2 decisions in his wins. 27 submissions is absolutely crazy. Gerald, been around since 2016, been getting all sorts of different finishes in the UFC. He's fought in Thiago Santos, Jack Hermanson, Kevin Holland, Hamzat Chimaev, Krzysztof Shotko, Joe Pyfer. He is currently on a little 2-fight win streak and is 1-3 in his last 4. But he last won in August of 2022 with a round 3 submission of Bruno Silva. And last time out in August last year, he went to a close split decision against Andre Petrovsky. So Gerald, happy to see him fighting. He takes on Brian Barberena. Brian is 34 years old from Arizona, trains at the MMA Lab, same gym as Sugar Sean O'Malley. Of his 18 victories, he has 11 knockouts and 2 subs. Brian unfortunately rides a 3-fight losing streak. He's been in the UFC since 2014. Fought in Sage Northcutt, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards, Vicente Luque, Randy Brown, Matt Brown. He's fought a lot of guys. He has a win over Robbie Lawler. Pretty crazy. But, he was fighting some tough competition. Got submitted by Rafael dos Anjos in 2022, submitted by Gunnar Nelson in 2023. Last time out in July, lost a brutal fight to Makhmud Muradov where he got dropped twice, taken down 13 times. It was not pretty. There's something about Joe Mearshart for this fight. I'm thinking he gets it done. I'm leading Gerald Mearshart. I'm sorry, Brian Barberena, but he's looking absolutely yoked for this. Your weakness is also submissions. Brian struggles with grapplers, as you can see. And Gerald is a full-out grappler. So I'm going to see a little round 2 sub. I think Gerald's going to kind of feel him out in round 1, get him down in round 2, and get that submission. Going to be a fun one to kick off the main card. Moving on to our second fight on the card, main card, I should say. We go to the women's bantamweight division, and we got some ranked women's bantamweights. That is right, as we have number 6 ranked Pan Kianzad as she takes on number 10 ranked Macy Chiasson. Pan Banza Kianzad is 17-7. Macy Chiasson is 9-3. 5'11" to 5'7" gives Macy 4 inches in height and 6 inches in reach, 72-66. Both women stand in the orthodox stance. Let's check in with the number 6 ranked Pan Kianzad. No idea how she's ranked 6. Her last win came in April of 2022. Been in the UFC since 2018. The 32-year-old was born in Iran, but now lives in Denmark. But where's the Swedish flag as her flag? Very odd. I can't explain it. Of her 17 career victories, 3 KOs. Oh, man, 3 KOs. The rest are all decisions. So many decisions. This is actually a rematch from 2018 when Macy Chiasson submitted her in round number 2. Fun fact. At one point, Pangianzad was on a 4-fight win streak before she lost to Raquel Pennington in 2021. Last win, of course, she beat Lena Landsberg in 2022. The last fight she lost was to Kelly Vera in July of 2023, where she got grappled. She, got taken down 3 of 3 times for almost 11 minutes of control time. Yikes. Yikes. Not going to help her in this one as she takes on Macy Chiasson, who is 32 years old from Texas, trains at Fortis MMA. 2 KOs and 2 subs make up her 9 wins. Last fought in September of 2022, where she got shockingly knocked out by Irene Aldana in a fight she was winning. It was so weird. Irina literally did an upkick and hit her in the gut, hit her perfectly in the liver, and that was it for Macy Chiasson. Last win came in May of 2022 when she beat Norma Dumont by unanimous decision. Been in the UFC, of course, since she beat Pangianzad on The Ultimate Fighter. Holds a couple wins. Gina Manzini, Sarah Moras, Shayna Young, Maureen Renault. I don't know. She's a grappler through and through. It looks like the weakness for Pangianzad, that is grappling. So we're going to give Macy Chiasson the win here. Might even get a finish. Honestly, I'm thinking she might get a finish in this one. But I'm more feeling so a decision. We're going with Macy by decision. Let me make sure I'm locking all this in on Verdict MMA. Of course, follow me on Verdict MMA so you can officially see all my picks, how much XP I put on all of these fights. But yeah, I'm thinking Macy Chiasson's grappling is what's going to help her to a win here. And honestly, if she wins, she could be freaking ranked in the top 10, which would be absolutely crazy. Almost the top 5. Good stuff ahead for her. Getting into our third fight of the main card. This is a fun one. I'm excited for this one at featherweight. I'm actually pumped for this one. As Christian Rodriguez takes on Isaac, the Midwest Choppa Dalgarian. I mean, come on, the Midwest Choppa. You don't get much cooler nicknames than that. All right, Isaac, that is pretty freaking dope. Christian is 10-1 professionally. Isaac Dalgarian 6-0. Both men are 5'7". Both men have an orthodox stance, and both men have a 71-inch reach. And mind you, even crazier, these two are almost the same age. Let's start with Christian Rodriguez. The 26-year-old is from Wisconsin, and of his 10 victories, 3 KOs and 4 subs. Currently rides a 3-fight win streak. Debuted in the UFC in 2022, where he lost his first professional bout to Jonathan Pierce, which isn't that bad of a person to lose to. For that, he had beaten Reyes Cortez Jr. on Dana White's Contender Series. Since then, he's gone on a tear, beating Joshua Williams with an anaconda choke, becoming the first person to beat Raul Rosas Jr., and becoming the first person to beat Cameron Saman. He was on absolute tear in 2023, 2-0, beat 2 undefeated guys. Same scenario here as he takes on Isaac, the Midwest Choppa Dalgarian. I just love saying that name. The 27-year-old from Kansas has a wrestling background and trains at Factory X Muay Thai. Of his 6 victories, 4 KOs, 2 subs, 100% finish rate, every finish coming in round number 1. He won his short notice debut against Francis Marshall in August of 2023, where he got a TKO with 12 seconds left. Fun fact about Isaac Dalgarian, on Dana White's Looking for a Fight, he was supposed to be sponsored by the Nelk Boys, and after basically giving him a contract, they never followed up, so the Nelk Boys kind of spurned Isaac Dalgarian, so he kind of holds some resentment toward them, and I think that is just fueling him in his UFC run. I'm sorry, Christian. I know you've beaten 2 undefeated guys before. I don't think your streak continues, as Isaac Dalgarian is an absolute savage. Appears, though, he does like to get some takedowns, does like to get some knockouts, so I'm going to say Isaac Dalgarian gets him out of here in round number 2. He's at all round 1 finishes. Oh, I don't know, boys. I'm going to say round 1 sub. I think this is the night of submissions. Isaac Dalgarian, round 1 submission. He did it before. I think he can do it again. This guy just has the skills. I love to see him, and I'm not picking against someone with the nickname the Midwest Choppa. Fourth fight of the main card. My goodness. We head to the men's light heavyweight division as Oven St. Preux returns again to take on Kennedy, African Savage, and Chukwu. Ooh, what a fun name, gentlemen. Oven St. Preux, 26-17 professionally. Kennedy, 12-4. 6'5 to 6'3 gives Kennedy 2 inches in height and also has 3 inches in reach, 83 to 80. Both men throw the left hand first in the southpaw stance. Let's check in with Kenny Nchukani, 31 years old, born in Nigeria, now actually lives and trains in Texas at Fortis MMA. Of his 12 victories, 8 knockouts and 1 submission. Kennedy, oh man, always been on the verge of the rankings, but debuted in the UFC off of the first season of Dana White's Contender Series, where he actually he won on the first season of Dana White's Contender Series, a split decision, then came back on season 2 and got a finish, then was signed in 2019 and got submitted by Paul Craig. After that, went on a 3-fight win streak, including knockouts of Carlos Ulberg and Danielo Marquez. Before dropping his next 2 fights, he would go on a little win streak from July of 2022 to May of 2023 with finishes of Carl Rosberg, Ian Cutelaba, and Devin Clark. Last fought in August of 2023, where he was shockingly knocked out by Dustin Jacoby in Nashville, Tennessee, with a punch just about over a minute into round number 1. It was shocking. It was unfortunate, but Kennedy's back against the veteran. One of the staples of the men's light heavyweight division, the great OSP, Ovens St. Preux. The 40-year-old, born in Haiti, now lives in Tennessee. Actually, fun fact, went to the University of Tennessee. So he is a volunteer. Isn't that what they are? I think that's what they are. Of his 26 victories, 11 knockouts, and 9 subs. Ovens has been in the UFC since 2010. He's fought in Gegard Mousai, Gian Viante, Nikita Krylov, Ryan Bader, Mauricio Rua. Actually once fought John Jones for the belt back in 2016. He's fought Glover Teixeira, Volkan Ozdemir, Marcos Rogerio de Lima, Corey Anderson, Ilir Latifi, Tyson Pedro. This guy has fought just about everyone. Dominic Reyes, Michael Okajacek, Ben Rothwell, Alonzo Medfield, just goes on and on. Jamal Hill, Mauricio Rua again. Last time he fought, though, was February of 2023, where he got knocked out in 49 seconds by Felipe Lins. So, not looking too promising. Ovens, I don't know why he's still fighting. He's made over $1 million, much more, in his career. Might be time to call it, because I think Kennedy gets him out of here in 1. You know, Kennedy just got knocked out. Felipe blitzed Ovens before in his loss. So, I think the game plan's right there. Give me a round 1 knockout for Kennedy Nchukani. You know what? It's tough. It's not pretty. I don't enjoy seeing it, but that's just how I'm calling it. That's just how I'm calling it, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's what's going to happen. But best of luck to both of these men. But yeah, Kenny Nchukani, I'm riding with you. Co-main event, though, this one should be interesting as we head to the men's welterweight division as Brian the Butcher Battle takes on Ange the Last Ninja Lusa. Brian Battle is 11-2. Ange Lusa is 10-3. 6'1 to 5'10 gives Ange Lusa a 3-inch height deficit. Brian Battle has the height advantage. And also Brian Battle has 3 inches in reach, 77 to 74. Both men have a orthodox stance when fighting. Let's start off with Brian Battle, who actually won season 29 of The Ultimate Fighter. The 29-year-old from North Carolina has 3 KOs and 5 subs of his 11 career victories and currently rides a 2-fight win streak. In the UFC is 5-1. His only loss is to Renat Fakhretdinov, who the only reason was booted from the rankings is because MVP beat Kevin Holland this past weekend. So that should say a lot about how good Brian Battle is. Coming off a round 2 submission of AJ Fletcher, he's also had a 14-second knockout of Gabe Green, a head kick knockout in 44 seconds over Takashi Soto, submitted Gilbert Urbina in 2021. Brian Battle's a killer. Brian Battle hunts for the finish. Excited to see him fight. But Ange Lusa will not make this easy for him. Ange Lusa is 29 years young, born in the Congo, the Republic of the Congo, now lives in Switzerland, trains at Killcliff FC. 5 KOs and 1 sub make up his 10 victories. He's never been finished in his 3 losses. Actually, lost to Jack Della Maddalena on season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. Then debuted in short notice against Monir Lazez, lost the decision there. But in August of 2022 and September 2023, got decision wins over AJ Fletcher and Rise McKee, respectively. So, excited to see what goes down here. But Ange Lusa, I'm sorry to tell you, Brian Battle is coming to kill. And honestly, Ange Lusa was throwing caution to the wind last time out against Rise McKee. Rise honestly looked better on the feet besides when Ange was taking him down. And Brian Battle's hands have been looking better and better. So I'm giving Brian Battle a round 2 knockout. I think he has the power either by a kick, a punch. I think he gets it done, becomes the first man to finish Ange Lusa. And Brian Battle will continue his ascent to potentially a ranked welterweight opponent. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we get to our final fight of the evening. As underwhelming as it may be, it'll be fun nonetheless, as number 9 ranked Tai Tuivasa in the men's heavyweight division takes on number 10 ranked Marcin Tybura. Let's talk about the main event right here and now to wrap up this episode. And as I look at my verdict prediction, I'm so glad that I double checked this, as I had the wrong pick in on verdict for who I thought was going to win. So glad I changed that right now. Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa and Marcin Tybura. His nickname's Tybura. His last name's Tybura. That's pretty dumb. Tai Tuivasa is 15-6. Marcin Tybura 24-8. 6'3" to 6'2" gives Marcin 1 inch in height, and he also has 3 inches in reach, 78 to 75. Orthodox stands for Tybura. Southpaw stands for Bam Bam. Let's kick it off with the number 9 ranked Tai Tuivasa. Tai is 30 years old, born and raised Australia. 14 KOs of his 15 career wins. Insane. Of his 6 losses, 5 of those he's been finished in. And these two were actually originally supposed to fight at UFC 298, but the fight was pushed back. And interesting enough, in the lead up to this fight, Marcin Tybura said that pushback of the fight by a month actually threw off his planning for it, which is very notable. Tai, man, what a crazy UFC run he's had. Debuted on a 3-fight win streak, was undefeated before losing 3 straight fights from 2018 to 2019. He would then proceed to go on a 5-fight win streak from 2020 to 2022 before since being on a losing streak from 2022 to 2023. Since the get-go, he's been fighting killers. The only man he's not been able to finish is Andrei Arlovski, fun fact enough. Tai Tuivasa been on a 3-fight losing streak before. He knows the stakes in this one, but mind you, his losses are to Alexander Volkov, Sergey Pavlovich, and Cyril Gane. Those are the number 2, number 3, and number 6 heavyweights in the rankings, okay? Just want to put that out there. Holds knockout wins of Derek Lewis, Greg Hardy, Augusto Sakai, Stefan Struve. His career losses also, Junior Dos Santos, Blagoy Ivanov, Sergey Spivak. So he's only been fighting killers, been talented since the get-go. I truly think he can break this streak here. But let's talk about Marcin Tybura first before I make my pick. Silly me. Marcin Tybura, 38. He's from Poland, lives and trains in Poland. Of his 24 victories, 8 KOs and 7 subs. And of his 8 losses, he's been KO'd in 5 of them. Fun fact enough. Marcin Tybura, notable heavyweight who's never really been able to crack a top 10 win. Debuted in 2016, fighting Timothy Johnson. Got a win over Andrei Arlovski in 2017. Losses to Fabricio Verdum and Derek Lewis in 2017 and 2018. Wins over Stefan Struve in 2018. He's been here and there. Was once on a 5-fight win streak before losing to Alexander Volkov. And was on a little 2-fight win streak before Tom Aspinall knocked him out in a minute back in July of 2023, which was his last fight. So, Marcin, I think the chin's starting to fail when he fights a big power puncher. I think Tai's got that power. Give me Tai Tuivasa, round 1 knockout. Dare I even say under 2 minutes, maybe? I think this is Tai's element, too. Tai Tuivasa is honestly built for the apex. Of those 5 wins that he had over that streak, only 2 of them were in front. Actually, 3 of them were in front of a crowd. I forgot that they were throwing up on pay-per-views because he was so exciting. This is a bit of a change of scenery. He actually, now that I say that, he hasn't actually been in the apex since March of 2021. Marcin Tybura was last in the apex in February of 2023. So should be interesting, but man, what more do you want? Tai Tuivasa, he's got the power. Tybura on his way out, should be a competitive bout, but I'm riding with Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa. So those are our picks. Let me recap them. Gerald Meerschaert over Brian Barberina by round 2 submission. Macy Chiasson over Pan Kianzad by unanimous decision. Isaac Dalgarian over Christian Rodriguez by round 1 sub. Kenny and Chukani over Owen St. Preux by round 1 knockout. Round 2 knockout for Brian Battle over Ange Lusa. And Tai Tuivasa with a round 1 knockout for himself over Marcin Tybura. I don't expect too much out of this card, which is good, because then it can really impress me if it does well. But yes, that'll draw an end to episode 74 of the podcast. We had a lot to talk about today. Gonna be a fun one. It's St. Patrick's Day this upcoming weekend. Get hype, get excited. I'm pumped for it. Without a doubt, I'm pumped for St. Patrick's Day. A couple of my boys are coming down. Gonna hang out with a bunch of my other friends. It's gonna be such a blast. Excited for it. Don't drink too much, children. All right, be respectful. And make sure to check out the next episode of the podcast. Next week's episode 75. Got plans of fun talks for that. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I will catch you next time on the Surprise Jab Podcast.